If you're a whiskey fan, you really can't beat a nice dram at this time of year, in fact, at any time of year. But have you ever thought where that water of life came actually from? McKay delves into history, and a good measure of myth, to find out. A field of barley, rippling and rustling as the wind stirs through it. It has been a staple of civilisations throughout the world for more than 10,000 years. I may be slow on the uptake, but if I stood in front of that field, it would never occur to me that, with a little jiggery-pokery, I could turn it into whiskey. But someone did. And long before the first record of it in Scotland in the 15th century, which was simply a cue to tax it. How did it come about? There are as many theories as there are brands of malts, from monks bringing the knowledge over from Ireland, who started it there, to the Vikings, who had invaded the Middle East, sacked Constantinople and Mesopotamia, and turned up on Iona in 794 to attack the monastery, get drunk and somehow, in their cups, spill the secret of how to make the water of life that they had picked up on their foraging jaunts. I have my own theory, which is valid as the previous, and it involves a very lazy man called Donald and Doc, who lived in a black house somewhere on the west coast, possibly Iona, in the 5th century, which is handy because no one could read or write at the time and therefore there are no historical records. Donald couldn't quite get the hang of growing barley and, besides, it involved back-breaking effort, so he relied on the charity of his neighbors, promising them he'd repay them handsomely one day when his inheritance from a far-off relative arrived. No one believed him, of course, but still they doled out the barley they could spare so he could make his porridge and survive. The method of making it was to toast the barley and boil it up to make the dish. But Donald had caught several rabbits and hares in his snares, so he put the barley in some water, forgot about it, and for almost a week dined on the outdoor catch, which was a lot tastier than his porridge. Now hungry, he remembered the discarded pot, the insides of which were now bubbling away without the aid of direct heat. What to do? He tasted the scum, which was disgusting, but he had to eat and he had no water because the burn had frozen. He had heard tales of how ancient seamen produced fresh water from seawater by boiling, catching the steam in fleeces, and squeezing them out to retrieve the fresh stuff. He had the fleeces he had intended to make into bedding hanging above the fire. So he gave it a go. The result didn't look too good. He had separated the boiled barley from the water, which he had put into another pot, so he decided to repeat the process. And, when the water had cooled, he took a deep swig. Lights went off in his. For more on this story, visit the news article link.